Barnaby Jones will return next Thursday night at 10, 9 Central and Mountain on most of these stations.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
That's, me kind of doing a very light take on the version of Batman I was raised by, which is sort of post-Neil Adams take, which he was doing the year I was born. Neil Adams was redefining the character kind of in the cracks and corners of DC when he was first a cover artist on a lot of the Batman books in the late 60s, and then once they gave him sort of the run of the place, his look, he kind of exaggerated even more with the lighting and the grandeur, the way he would exaggerate the figure form, the length of the ears, the length of the cape. A lot of it was just sort of aesthetics. He wasn't really changing the costume per se. I tried to illustrate what Adams did with a sense of maybe somewhat photo exacting kind of take on it, while also kind of avoiding some of the comic book tropes of the glowing white eyes, which I was always having a problem with as a kid, thinking about like how the mask is pretty much on his face like it's makeup. Like it's as close to the skin as you can get the way it was drawn by everybody, Adams included. And if that's the case, there's no room to hide the eyelashes for the human being wearing this mask, so basically just his natural eyes showing, but you can hide that in shadow.
Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, another good friend. Man, this has been a week of good friends that I've made over the years. And certainly Phillip Kennedy Johnson is among those friends. It's good to see you, man. How are you?
You too, John. You honor me.
Dude, honestly, ever since we've met, it's been mutual admiration. And I was telling Wade the other day, I'm like, hey, it's awesome when Phillip comes to town and it's not comic related, we still get together. So
I know.
It means a lot, man.
I treasure those memories. I like that town too. Chicago's great.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to get some acknowledgments from everybody. Taco says good evening. B. Graham from Australia. Good morning.
Oh, nice.
Good to see you, man. Thank you for watching. And Mark wants to thank you for coming out to the Cleveland Public Library and Carol and John's Comics this past weekend. Was it a Superman event?
Yeah, man, we've got to talk about that. That was so cool. Yeah, my new friend Valentino, he teaches in there's like a nursing college in that town that he and his chair Katie teach English at, and they have become fast friends of mine. Valentino kind of spearheaded this event called Superman's Cleveland, and Superman's Cleveland or Cleveland Superman? Now I feel like an asshole. I can't remember which one it is, but it's it's well done. And Valentino just did an amazing job. It's this thing that happens they brought me out. They're about to bring out Mark Waid. They're about to bring out Cena Grace and Sarah Kuhn. They do it like every weekend or two. They're bringing somebody out for the next couple of months. And it's awesome. I want to say it's Superman's Cleveland, and it's they've got some artwork that Cena did for the thing actually. That they're promoting. They are tirelessly promoting it in town. And it was just so dope. Like Valentino took good care of me. He drove me around, took me to the Siegel House, which was awesome.
Yes.
And I'd never been, man. I've seen, a lot of people I know have been. And so I got out there, saw the big triangular S on the fence. And there was the night before I was hanging out with Valentino and Katie and another recently retired teacher named Vera and an author named Brad who recently wrote a book about Superman and the creators.
Brad Rika?
The book is called, I don't remember Brad's last name. It's called Super Boys, I think is the name of the book. Do you know
I
that
think
book?
that's Brad Rika. Yeah. I believe that's the author. And
I
stuff.
can show you. I can show you a selfie within a minute. I forget his
Cool.
last name, but yeah, Super Boys is the name of the book. Man, I'm just really falling on my face here. But but Brad's a super nice dude, and he told us about the Grays who live in that house now. And he's like, you got to bring some donuts or something. So I was like, all right. So that morning we went and got some fancy pants cookies and brought them over there. And this dude, nobody comes to the door for quite a while. And I was like, oh crap, we missed him. And he said, you should bring he's like, do you have any books with you? I'm like, yeah, I got some books with me. Because we were doing a signing at this place, this great shop called Carol and John's Comic Book Shop. It's a great store, an awesome staff. A dude named John runs it. Carol is his mother. So this guy named John runs it, does a great job. And so Brad asked me, do you have any books with you? I'm like, yeah, I've got some for the signing. He's like, take a book and sign it and bring it over there. They have this like shrine of books and Superman shit in the house.
Wow.
And they'll put it up there. So I did that. I got some sugary stuff, and I brought a book. I had brought Action 1057 that was about to drop. 1057 is dropped this week.
Yes.
So I had my comps for that. So I had the A covers and I had all the variants as well. So I took, I always set aside some, hey, there it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
I set aside some, like some family I always set aside 2 copies of everything for my boy. Like I have this collection of my stuff for him to have someday, so he can sell it or have it or whatever he wants to do. But I still had some of the variant covers, including this George Jimenez cover. And so I took that one, signed it, took it to the door, and nobody came. And we were like, oh man, I guess they're not here. So I was just going to leave it. And then just as we were leaving, somebody opened up, and it's this older guy. And he looked at us very suspiciously. He's like, it's kind of this, like, what do you want kind of thing. And I was like, hey, like, I'm writing Action Comics and I brought this for you. I brought this for the family. I was like, are you Mr. Gray? He's like, it's my father. And he's still kind of eyeing us like, what do you need? And when I told him we were just leaving presents, he's like, all right, give me a minute. And a minute later, he comes back out and his dad opens the door. So we talked to Mr. Gray for a while, and there's like a guest book, and he's like, you guys want to come inside? And it was funny because you could tell he does this a fair bit, and but he was very cool about it, and he let us inside, and we saw all the stuff upstairs, and it was just such an honor to be there. It's such a crazy experience to get to be in the Siegel home.
I bet. Oh my God. Yeah, I've never been. Certainly I saw when they were restoring the home, and Brad Meltzer got involved with that. So it's great to hear they live there. The Grays, they live in the house.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. They live there still. And they've been there since the 80s.
Wow.
And when he bought the place, when the Grays bought the home, they did not know that it was not yet a historic home.
Sure.
It was just a house they bought. And then a few years later, somebody showed up and they said, this is the home of the writer of Superman. He had no idea. And then then they started getting people at the house all the time. So yeah, they've been there forever, like 40 years.
That's really cool. And it's cool that they embrace the history of the house and everything. Oh. I don't know. I mean, God, I hope it's, I don't know if they give tours. I mean, it sounds great that they have a little Superman shrine in it and everything.
It's not that big of a place, and they do live there. So it's not exactly a tour kind of situation. Like there's the steps, and there's a couple of rooms upstairs that are set aside for it. And they really fill it with stuff. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of it's quite old.
Wow, cool.
But there's also a room upstairs that they actually use, so it's not the tour. We basically did get the tour. It's just kind of going up the steps and seeing the Superman stuff and signing the book and all that. And it was cool seeing the book. There's a couple of people in the book whose names I recognize, like friends that I know online. That was kind of funny. But yeah, I know Meltzer was like the champion who helped save that home. And actually Brad, the guy I found out later that Brad, the author of Super Boys, also was instrumental in, and he didn't talk himself up in the role that he played, but apparently he was also instrumental in saving the house.
That is so great to hear. And while we're talking about this, Mark mentioned it, and I have since bought it. Ed Gross, who's been doing amazing oral histories of various pop culture properties. He did a 2-volume thing on the history of Star Trek all the way, and did a Buffy and Angel book, a James Bond book, even a John Wick book. Well, he just released a book, and now I'm blanking on the title. I will look on my iPad while we're talking, but it's an oral history of Superman, and he's been collecting these interviews for decades. And I'm just getting into it. I believe Brandon Routh wrote the introduction, and Mark was thinking about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I've heard about it. I've not read it yet, but I've heard. I think I might have heard about it on this trip actually. But yeah, it's supposed to be great.
That's excellent. And then let's transition into talking about Action 1057. We show the cover, Revenge of the Demon, a brand new story arc, and some very intriguing new villains for Superman. We're already getting comments, and I want to acknowledge our RP Chatham, who says Nora Stone is one of the most chilling villains I've seen in a while. What is the origin behind her conception? And while we're talking, we will show a panel featuring Nora Stone.
Oh, thanks. I hate to bunt on the question, but it's actually I can't get into it too much because there is kind of a reveal coming up. But
okay,
I'll say that Blue Earth, she's the founder of Blue Earth, and Blue Earth is I feel like if you're going to tell a Superman story, it needs to be relevant in some way. Like we're telling stories about there's like a philosophical weight to being the writer of Superman at any given moment that is not necessarily present in any other book, in my opinion. A lot of comics can just kind of be for the fun of it or to tell a cool story in the genre that you're in. When you're writing a Superman story, there's a responsibility there that I just, I need to take seriously. So Blue Earth is an organization that is very isolationist, that is very xenophobic, and it just kind of shows the cracks that are kind of appearing across Metropolis in the way that they view Superman and view in post-war world, how they view aliens in general. Like when Superman brought the war world refugees back, that gave an opening to his enemies. And so Blue Earth is kind of the manifestation of that, and I wanted to show their mysterious founder. That was kind of like the C plot in the Metallo series where they were around, but they weren't like the big threat, so I wanted to make them more of a thing now. So they're around. And when I showed their founder, the one who's kind of pulling the strings, I wanted to be something very surprising, so she's like this teenage girl who kind of like, I described her in the book as in the script as like a goth Greta Thunberg.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, man. Absolutely. Fantastic.
But what Paul, my editor, glommed onto though, he was like, let's make her like he wanted to kind of give her a slant that makes her like that kind of makes her reminiscent of the Wednesday Addams actress.
Oh, sure. Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I always forget her name, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But to me, Greta Thunberg is more the touchstone character, not in the way she looks, just in the surprising way in which she's become this kind of lightning rod for this movement,
Well, and truly, as Grant, is it? I want to get the right person saying this, and they're so right. God, where is it? Who raved about the interview scene? There it is. B. Graham. Yeah, the interview scene was very intense. Not to mention the beautiful opening spreads. Absolutely. Travel Foreman on this issue?
No, actually.
Excuse me. That's GL, right?
That's
Hulk. That's Hulk. Excuse me.
Yeah. Travel Foreman's been drawn. No, it's fine. There's a lot of stuff on the shelf. It's
sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay, man.
Who drew it?
Rafa Sandoval's doing it still.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man. No, it looks great.
Man, Rafa's so goddamn good. He's drawn this issue and the next one too. And man, his work is just so great. It gives us, I really wanted to, I've been doing the big epic cosmic stuff so much that I wanted to, I haven't really been able to show Clark much as a reporter, and I really missed that stuff. I wanted to see him more in the Christopher Reeve, like hat and glasses and tie kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I want to see the bullpen. I just want those those really feel good moments of Clark being the nice, meek guy, not meek in a pathetic, like, I'm such a coward way, like back in the day, but like just super polite, like Mr. Take the shit, you know? And even when somebody's a little bit bullying, he's very kind about it. And I just want to, it just makes you feel so good to see that stuff. And I really wanted to show it. So this was the issue, to do that. I really wanted to see him as a reporter. And I also kind of, at some point, I kind of got this idea in my head of seeing him conduct an interview and what that would be like after seeing, we've all been watching the news. We've seen a lot of interviews happening, both to cooperative and uncooperative hosts. So I wanted to see how Clark Kent would do something like that. And I wanted to see him use his powers in an unintrusive kind of probing kind of way. Like how would his powers make him a better reporter, or, anyway, so I wanted to show that. I want to show him using his powers in a way that is not typical. Anyway, that's what that scene was about. I wanted to show him, using his powers in a new way. But
from Loeb to Wade to other Superman writers, it always is great to see Clark Kent, investigative journalist. Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, Batman is the greatest detective in the DCU. Nothing, but it's like Superman knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
because he's a trained journalist. And as we've had this conversation, and really, I almost feel like I'm picking on poor Brian Bendis, but you know what I mean. And I brought it up with Wade too. It's great to have Clark back, because I think Clark can get to the bottom of things in a way that Superman can't. I mean, he's got his powers, but as I've said a million times, people will open up to Clark Kent. And certainly Nora has an agenda. But regardless, it's good to see Clark Kent being Clark Kent.
Yeah, thanks. I totally agree. It just makes you feel good, Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
And yeah, she definitely has an agenda, and it's fun to see him see through it. And
yes, and I don't want to spoil if people haven't read it, but certainly Clark applies his powers well. Yeah. And it's great because it's this very surface. Tell me more. Don't worry, Superman is in his brain. The super part is certainly in his brain, like taking stock of things.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's good, it's good you mentioned Batman too, because it's fun seeing them investigate in different ways. Where when Batman's investigating, it's got there's very much a kind of a hard-boiled detective, kind of shrewd, sneaky kind of element to it, like investigating the crime scene in the dark and all that. And with Clark, there's this I don't know, there's like this aspirational, like tell the truth kind of element to it that just feels really great. I don't know.
Let's talk about Nora's major domo, Dorian. And here you can see in the panels that I chose, he's going to try and kind of call the shots of the interview. And right. Clark's like, yeah, listen, because he wants Jimmy out of. He's like, just Clark for the interview, and it's like, no, we already agreed that there's going to be pictures. Jimmy's here to do a job, and again, it's the planet scenes are great. I love seeing Lois in charge. Is this full time? Has Perry retired?
Right now, yeah. Following
he had the heart attack, but yeah.
Yeah, following the events of Superman #1 that Josh and oh my
Tom.
God.
Was it Tom?
Josh and oh my God, what's his name? Campbell. The artist.
Oh shit. Not Aaron Campbell.
No. Jamal. Sorry.
Oh, Jamal Campbell. Okay, of course Jamal Campbell.
Yeah, Josh and Jamal did. In that book, Perry has a heart attack. So right now he's still kind of off the grid. So we see Lois as like people are calling Lois Chief. That's kind of fun. And I
love that.
Yeah, it's another way to see Clark's, he's the toughest dude in the multiverse, and he's just kind of like pushing his glasses up his nose and taking it on the chin. And it's funny. It was fun to see him kind of get mobbed in the bullpen. How crazy a newspaper bullpen has got to be all the time.
Sure.
Somebody like shrieking for interns and trying to get another look on stuff. It's like, where's my thing? Where's the proofer? Where's everything? I got to run in 20 minutes. And then, he's just like scrambling. Lowe's like, get the lead out. Everyone's yelling at him. It's just so fun. I got a really kind word from George Gustinez the morning it ran, talking about that. I was really curious what George would think, and he liked it. So
It's
yeah, it was
great,
cool.
man. You know, Andrew G says, I don't want to ask a question that's already been asked, but I'm really enjoying the opening pages to Action 1057, especially the rush to the Daily Planet. And also, well, that's something that's for me to talk about another person, but a new backup for Connor. I love Connor. Great to see
Yeah,
Connor back.
it was fun to see Connor. I mean, there's so many super characters.
Quite literally.
It's just, honestly impossible to give everyone tons of space with which to shine. So we've been really mindful of giving them all backups so that they all get some love in the issue. So Mags did the Connor story. Gene is doing a Concannon story here soon that I'm really excited about. Let's see what else. That opening scene, man, that I wanted to do
on the construction building. Yeah.
That was a scene that's been in my head for a long time, and there just wasn't really a place for it until now. It's a story I've been wanting to tell for a long time, where we see Superman connecting with an ex-con that he put away, and I like the idea that I wanted to show that he doesn't just throw people in jail and walk away. I know that something that we do, like, in America, we have a jail problem. We got a lot of people in prison. And I like the idea that Superman is not part of that problem. That he's all about the justice system, but he also looks after people when they're out, while they're in, and then also when they're out. So sure. He's connecting with this ex-con, but that's not how he sees him. He was just checking up on him to see that, see how he's doing, and helped him kind of get back on his feet, helped him, live a better life. And now he has a better life. He's working at Steelworks. He's got a family. Everything's going okay. He's got little problems like we all have, but he's okay. And Superman is his friend. They're just eating lunch. So yeah, I just love the idea that he would take somebody who is his enemy, and by the end of their story together, they're friends, and he has another supporter. And like even the people that once he was chasing down the street is now his friend. And that's going to be a theme that we see again in this arc as well.
Oh, excellent! Because I was wondering if that wasn't the only scene we're going to see of him and everything. Or
well, I shouldn't spoil whether we're going to see Glenn again, but the people, Glenn, Glenn is named for for an online friend of mine, a guy who's a massive Superman fan. And hey, man. I try to work my friends into, like, when it makes sense for somebody to get immortalized in a book, I try to make that happen. And Glenn's a great dude. Walks the walk, So anyway, I shouldn't say if we're going to see Glenn again, but just the idea of kind of like the thing we did with Metallo, where people talk about, sometimes people are complaining like, well, you shouldn't have made Metallo a good guy. Like, dude, Metallo's not a good guy. Metallo is still very much a villain. He's just not a one-dimensional monster that has no heart or soul. He's a guy that might have had a very different life, and instead he went this route, and this is who he is. He's trying to do better and fails. That doesn't make him a good guy. So
yes, anyway. He's a tragic figure, and learning more about his backstory with his sister and the like. I don't know if you're the first person that touched on his sister or not.
I think so. Yeah. She's a character that I made up.
Well, Phil, honestly, you are bringing a lot of humanity to all these current books you're doing, and we'll certainly explore that as we continue to go. Robert wants to know, do you have any plans to show more from the future Superman family stuff you did during Future State?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff is yet to be determined, but I definitely hope so.
B. Graham, as amazing as the World Saga was and Speeding Bullets arcs were, I think this issue was a favorite because it felt like an instant classic Superman with the journalistic beats and all. Absolutely, man. Again, it's one of the best things, and especially if you watch that first season of Adventures of Superman, the George Reeves show, which had a much more serious tone than the subsequent seasons. And listen, I love it all. And I also, by the way, how do you feel about the new anime, My Adventures with Superman?
Man, I love it.
Yeah, they get it. It's that right. Again, it's that right tone. And I mean, again, Wade and I were talking about it the other day, and it was such a pleasant surprise. Where it's like, okay, this is cool. It's different, but it's got the great right spirit and everything about it. No, I adore it. I think it's such a fun show and
Yeah.
another shade of a different Superman. I think it's great.
Yeah. I'm glad people are digging the new issue too. I as far as getting like the classic, Daily Planet Clark stuff. That opening scene was with Superman and Glenn. Um I wanted some kind of an answer to the Grant Morrison jumper scene, where like that was one of the moments in the whole run. I mean, there's so many. Think about all the unbelievably epic visual moments in All Star Superman, but the one that people remember probably more than any other moment, if not the opening, would be the jumper scene with that girl who's about to do it, and he's like, "You're stronger than you think you are." That's such a powerful scene, and the same thing in Kingdom Come, man. Like so many epic moments, but one that sticks with me more than any others. Well, before I say mine, what's yours? Is there a moment from Kingdom Come that sticks out to you?
I really love all the Clark and Diana conversations, and really the epilogue at Planet Krypton when
The diner?
yeah, and when Batman's like, hey, what's they're talking, and he's like, oh, I caught Luthor trying to sneak down to the Black Batcave and hack the computer, and he says hello, by the way, and Clark's like, really? And Bruce's like, no. It's just like,
Yeah. Well,
it's just
cool. I
inherently.
wanted to hear what yours were. So again, it's like this conversation that you remember. For me,
Oh,
it
God.
was
Yes.
for
Go on.
me, it was when Superman blows into that bar, and like probably I think it might be the second issue, second or third issue. I only have the collection, but I think it's the second or third issue where he walks into the bar where all the douchebag superhero bar where they're all hanging out,
Yes.
and he walks in and everyone shuts up and turns and looks, and he looks like Christopher Reeve kind of, and he's like, be better than this, be more like, I'm going to be calling on you to serve like we should. And then he walks out, and then they all start buzzing like, oh my God, what are you going to do? That was just such a powerful scene. It's not always the big, it's not the bombast that necessarily sticks with you.
I hear you, man. Of course, though, the image, bombastically speaking, at the end of issue 3, when Captain Marvel is standing over him, smiling,
That's
and
a great
stuff,
one. Yeah,
and it's like,
good one.
oh shit. But again, when he's just, this is why guys like you and Mark and Brian as well get Superman, and it's like, no, he sees the good in everybody, and he's like, Billy, listen to me, and he's just trying to talk him down. And like, do the right thing, man. Again, do the right thing. And
Right.
it's just great. And it's, no, man, these guys, God, also, I got to hand it to Jeff Johns for, I want to get my right, Crisis. I believe it was Infinite Crisis, when Earth 2 Superman shows up to Earth 1 Batman, and he goes, Bruce, you're the best man I know.
Yeah.
And even though Bruce has no idea who he is, he's like, holy shit. This guy clearly, there's a connection, even though I've never met this man before. And it's just, no, it's those kind of moments and stuff where it's just like the calming voice of reason, the man who's done it all, the first hero. And that was always what bummed me out when they took away Golden Age Superman. And it's like, no, man, this guy is literally both in the comics, as we mentioned, the Siegel House in Cleveland and everything. This is the guy that started it all. That's the kind of reference, or the bar scene, like you mentioned in Kingdom Come. It's like, okay, Superman's, and that's the thing, as I said, Superman's in the room. Holy shit. Clark Kent is in the room. Oh, we can sit down and have a conversation. I told you about that, This American Life, I think that Michael Chabon wrote, where it's Lois and Superman aren't married. Lois and Superman are having downtime where they're not together, and she starts dating a normal guy. And she just loves that the guy's normal. She like pinches his fat on his belly, and just as it's great. And he's just like, whatever. And then he loses his job, and Superman tries to give him a job as a sidekick, and it doesn't work out. Ultimately, Lois goes back to Superman, and he's bummed out. And he goes, I went to the bar, and there was the one guy that I could talk to that, really gets me. And that's Clark Kent. And he and Clark just sit down, and they're having drinks. And as the guy's getting drunk, he's like, man, if Superman were here right now, I would tell him X, Y, Z. And Clark's just laughing and going, what else? Keep going. What else would you tell him? Being a good friend, not being a jerk, not messing with the guy, but just like, all right, no, he needs Clark. And, again, ultimately, yes, Superman wants to be with Lois, but it's like, he's not going to let this guy just hang there. He's a good guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. What else? Somebody asked earlier, and I want to get to it. They wanted to know if you were going to come to the Virginia Military Institute. Erica Nett wanted to know, would you be coming to that institute in the future?
I don't know. Hold on, I'm looking for the thing.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's here. Yeah. Hello, sir. Any chance you can come to the Virginia Military Institute? I'm assuming with the band.
Well, that's not up to me where the band plays, but
Sure.
but if they wanted me to come down there and speak about the band or speak about writing or comics or whatever, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I've done some stuff at West Point. I've gone to speak to here. Actually, I've got my mug right here. The West Point writing program.
Wow.
There we go.
Cool.
Yeah, the cadets at West Point are so awesome. I just love, and the teacher there too. Hey, there's Bob.
Yeah, hey Bob Harrison, how are you? Another fine podcaster and
Bob is such a
panel
good
moderator. Absolutely.
Bob knows you and Bob will get along really well, man. And Bob knows. Bob knows a ton of shit.
Oh yeah, we hang out at conventions when we see each other. Absolutely, we make time for each other. Yeah, and I know he was very busy at Baltimore. I'm aware of that. So
there's Eric stocking up VMI. So yeah, no, all right. I'll go ahead and commit online here. I'm going to totally go. Now
awesome.
I am active duty still, so I have to get leave and all that. But unless it's within the radius, I'm not sure what town that's in. We're supposed to stay within 250 miles of our duty station. Otherwise, you got to take leave for it. But it might be within that. I don't know.
Jared wants you to go to Terrificon.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I don't. The promoter doesn't know that yet. He did come by at Baltimore Con and invited me, and I told him I didn't know if I was going to make it. But since then, I have learned that is my block leave period. So
that's great.
Yeah, we're doing
Phillip.
We're doing some stuff in Europe before that, and then but by the time the con starts, we'll be back, and then they're giving us a big block leave chunk of time. So it's too easy. I will miss San Diego because of that trip, but I will make Terrificon.
That's great to hear. Well, sorry, I'm going to bug you for a meal at least. You know that.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I mean that'll be the first thing on the schedule.
Excellent. No, that's terrific, man. No, and Bob's thrilled that you're coming as well.
Yeah, cool. A word about that West Point trip, man. I went up there. A friend of actually my college roommate when I was a music student. His name is Denver Dill, and this guy I went to school with him. He's a great trumpet player. For graduate school, we went our separate ways, but we stayed in touch. And then he ended up getting a job in the band at West Point. And so then, since then, his trajectory has made him a sergeant major there. That's the highest enlisted rank. He's like more of a managerial kind of gig. Not to say he never plays, but now his job is much more diverse. There's actually this class about music and influence that he teaches to the cadets, and he wanted me to come speak to his class. And he also hooked me up with the teachers for the writing program. So I got to speak to the writing cadets, and man, that was fun. And there's this one dude who, my first time up there, there's this one guy who's legit like a comics guy but those cadets stay so unbelievably busy, man. They're just around the clock busy. I mean, if you've ever taken like 20 or 21 credit hours in college, like a super full load, like with the waiver full load, now imagine doing that like during basic training. Like it's insane for years,
Yeah.
So they just keep these guys hopping like crazy. Guys meeting people, like they're just men
and women. Sure.
So impressive what they do, what they keep up with.
But it's great that they're learning these other trades. I mean, and forgive me for interrupting, but my stepbrother was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. And was an airplane mechanic and stuff. And they learned that, which I understand, maintaining the equipment, but hearing about the writing program and the music program and stuff, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I was really inspired to talk to all of them and see how they live and just see what kind of people they are, especially now, man. Like the stuff on the news it gets really dark. Like you hear about all the corruption and seeing all the people who are just not supporting their constituents like they ought to, or not walking the walk, as I said.
Well, and even good Lord, I mean, in the current headlines,
That's what I mean, kind of. Yeah.
The bullshit that General Milley is dealing with. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, man. I don't know how much you want to speak about that, but truly, as someone from the military, yeah, if you had a comment.
Yeah, I mean, UCMJ says I'm not supposed to talk about politics specifically. Well, not allowed to like throw an elected leader under the bus or anything, but I can say it's not a political thing to support the chief of staff. Mark Milley has my full support. I'll say that, because he's a
I hear you, man.
great soldier and a great man.
Well, that's the impression he gives anytime I see him on camera. So
yeah. So anyway, it was just such an honor and a breath of fresh air to see the cadets and how they live their lives. It's just I wish all Americans could see those cadets and what awesome people they are. And so there's this one guy who's a comics dude, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. So I spoke to various groups throughout the day, and he was not able to make any of them until the very end of the day. There's kind of this extracurricular thing that happens in the evening when I was there. There's this little like kind of house set aside where groups can get together and have, whatever book club stuff or church things. Or there's this one group that got together and they learn how to cook basically. Cause again, these are basically kids, right? So they get together and somebody in the group teaches the others how to cook something, and they all kind of talk about it. And then they get together and they just sit and eat it and talk about something that they read. Yeah, it's awesome. So there was like they did kind of this food book club thing, and this dude Monty showed up kind of late because he was coming from something else. I think his name is Monty Collins, if I remember right. So he shows up kind of late, and he's got books with him. Like he had picked something up somewhere, and it's not like there's a comic store on West Point. I don't know where he got this
EX or anything. No, okay.
But he showed up, and he missed part of it because he was coming from some, like a test or whatever. And, but he hung out at the end and talked to me after everyone else had left. And Denver was kind enough to drive him back to his barracks after everything. So we talked in the car, and I gave him some stuff. This is before any of my Green Lantern stuff had hit, including the Dark Crisis thing that I'd done. This is a couple of years ago. So the Dark Crisis World Without a Justice League had not yet hit. He wanted to talk about Superman and Last God, which he had, and something else. But then he was so cool and just nice, and had really gone out of his way to be there. So I got onto my phone, and I just found the cover. I've just been shown the cover for the Dark Crisis book with this super epic painted thing where John Stewart in this other universe has done up kind of like in Spartan armor, sort of, with the cape and the big like double-sided spear and everything. As we of Elden Ring would call a twin blade. So fighting these like big zombie things, and it just looked incredibly epic. And I was like, Monty, check this out. And he flipped shit when he saw that. And he told me that John Stewart was his favorite ever, and went on and on about it, man. And not because, forgive me if I've told this story before. Have I told you about this before?
Tell me.
He kind of looks like John Stewart, but that's not why he loves him. He went on to tell me why he loves John Stewart, and it's not anything to do with like being a kid and seeing himself on screen. It was about being the guy who was part of the Green Lantern Corps, this thing that was bigger and older and something greater than himself, but also greater than the Justice League, something that's been around for, ages.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Being a part of that greater thing, and just the scope and scale of his service. And without meaning to, he was really telling me why he was at West Point. But he was telling me who he was, he thought he was telling me about why John Stewart was so dope, but really he was telling me about who he is as a person. And I will never forget that conversation.
That's cool.
He told me about how West Point was where the origin, that's like the origin of class rings comes from West Point, apparently. And I've never fact checked that, but that's what he said. And I know that class rings are a big deal there. And he said that when he graduated, he was going to make his look as Green Lantern-y as he possibly could. And it was just a really memorable thing that I'll never forget. And it really reminded me of the power of these stories, and how there's something so fundamental about the concept of the superhero That just, it makes them really powerful. Some people kind of dismiss it as kid stuff, and that's just not how it is.
Well, they're only seeing the surface, and
Yeah.
that's fine. And a lot of people will serve that surface need, but it really is, as I said about my favorite scenes in Kingdom Come, it's the conversations, because truly, the conversation with the ex-con on the building, a lot of these, like my favorite scenes in Kingdom Come, things that Mark is doing in Teen Titans right now, the world's finest Teen Titans thing he's doing. So yeah, I that's my feeling. Robert wants to know, since you're writing Hulk, Green Lantern, and Superman, if you were asked to write a Marvel DC crossover, would you want to do Superman and Hulk for the strongest guys, or Hulk, Green Lantern, the Jade Heroes?
If I had to choose between those two, I would say Hulk, Superman.
Okay.
I like the idea. Well, at one point I had told somebody on another show that I think Superman and Thor would be kind of cool.
Oh, 100%. God, Perez and Busick's JLA Avengers crossover.
Yeah.
When Superman is holding Thor's hammer and Cap's shield and stuff. And yeah, man, no, it's
Yeah.
No, I can appreciate that, certainly.
But though, if I was going to do any kind of DC Marvel crossover, I would do Constantine, Doctor Strange.
Oh, that would be great. Oh my God.
Those guys would hate each other, right?
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
yeah, Steven's a pompous ass, and John is a dirty double-crossing jerk, and they hate each other.
I would just, it would be so fun to see how differently they approach things, because Doctor Strange is all about the big glowing circles and all the pomp and all the crazy cosmic stuff. And John just has such disdain for all that stuff, and he would much rather just use, like, sleight of hand or just trickery or his own words. He'd rather just con the devil into doing what he wants him to do than actually do anything with any real show. I remember him at some point using he had a lit cigarette, and he draws like something like a rune in the air or something. He was like, with this torch I blah blah blah. He says some incantation, but he can't be bothered to actually have a wand. He just uses a cigarette. I love that disdain. He's like, yeah, this is so lame.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost a burden, him being able to tap into the supernatural world, and it's just like these fucking guys, and women.
I know it would be so fun to see a Doctor Strange crossover with that, and
that's a great idea, man.
So someday, hopefully.
All right, talk to Marie, talk to CB, and let's see what happens. That'd be great.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, since I'm actually doing action and Hulk, though, it would be really fun to do Superman Hulk book.
Oh God, yes. Well, that's funny. I was going to transition to Green Lantern. What do you want to talk about first? War Journal or Hulk?
Oh, whatever you want, honestly.
All right. Well, honestly, because here I want to point out. Eric says that VMI has the best class ring. Just saying, I have a green stone on mine, like a Green Lantern, which is awesome. And a good way to transition into talking about Green Lantern, War Journal. John Stewart, man, again. Much like the conversations that Superman has with the ex-con on the building. I love that. Are you the guy that is introducing John's mother? No,
she's been in other stuff. Very, very briefly. She actually looks very much like this in an old comic in which she appears in this, and it looks very much like she does here.
Oh, wow.
And there was also an issue. I just don't have the knowledge. Wade would be so disappointed in me. I know he's got that.
We need Wade on this conversation.
No, thank you, because he would just have he would be so revolted to know how little I actually know. I just have such a horrible memory for minutia like this, like the issue numbers and even which series they appear in. I just kind of see the scenes in my mind, But there is a story that talks about John's upbringing and how his mom was a civil rights leader. Not a leader in the way that you would think of like MLK or Medgar Evers, but it was super active during civil rights. And of course, now time has passed, and it's a little like the timeline gets a little fuzzy now. I envisioned his mother as like marching with John Lewis and all that, and obviously, of course, that was a long time ago now. But so we don't give details like that in the book now. but there are things coming up in which she meets other people and they know who she is, because
cool.
she's a woman of some prestige as far as the work that she did back in the day when it was like the hard thing, you know.
And without spoiling, we can intimate from the first issue that perhaps she's getting older, and when people get older, sometimes they're starting to
Yeah,
slip.
she's dealing with some end of life stuff. She has dementia, and we see John kind of taking care of her, you know. So that's some other stuff I wanted to really show. I wanted to show John coming back from war, kind of. I mean, he's the serviceman. So people ask about whether my my military service colored the story, and it has. I mean, less of my own service, because my job in the Army is primarily as an ambassador, kind of. I'm a musician, and it's a job I value. We do work that I really value and believe in, but there are some people who have a very different kind of service, and when they come home, they have to get used to a world in which you got to drive the speed limit again. They're coming back from a place where it's ramped up to 11 all the time, and they come home and they are used to their adrenaline levels being at a certain place. And then they come home and now they're expected to stand in line at the grocery store or, have normal, quiet conversations. And that stuff gets hard for a while. You know, like you get so many people come home from war and, die in motorcycle accidents, or, they go too hard in one way or another because of what they've been through. And John, I'm not even talking about with John Stewart. I'm not even talking about him being a Marine. I'm talking about him, this crazy adventure he just went on, coming back from across the universe, and where the stakes are just unthinkably high, and then he comes home and he's got to take care of his mom. And that's not something that he's used to. I try to show some of that in the backups as well for the Hal Jordan book, where we see John just trying to, fix up his mom's house and kind of just being there for her because she's in a place where she can't remember to take her pills. And in theory, she should have some kind of a caregiver.
Yes.
So John has taken it upon himself to do that. And it's such a different kind of service than he's used to.
Very human story. Well, and what you described as far as the military coming home, I certainly remember those scenes from the Hurt Locker.
Exactly. That's exactly it. There's some people who just at a certain point that's all they're fit for. And that's not their fault. There was
you're conditioned, like you said, under these extreme circumstances to stomp on a dime and jump at the first moment of concern.
Yeah.
Go on, please. Feel
free. There was a moment that I had in real life where let's see, there's this little, I was in a rush to get from work to something else. I don't remember where I was going, but I just had to run in and grab a quick, I was in the drive-thru grabbing food or something. And I was going around the building, and this other dude pulled to try to get around somebody else, had pulled into this bank drive-thru right next door, just like unreal, insanely fast, just way, way, way too fast, the wrong direction, just to try to get around everybody. And he pulled out the other side and it came within like inches of hitting me and just slammed on the brakes. And I was in my lane, but he got out of his car furious, slammed his door, and he was still in uniform. This is all very close to Fort Meade where I work.
Wow.
And we were both in uniform, and he slammed the door, got out, and he was holding his cell phone in his hand. And he comes up to the window and is just flipping out, like just cussed me up and down. And I hadn't done anything wrong. It was honestly funny. I think I actually chuckled. And when he walked away, he picked up the phone. He was like, "Yeah, Mama, I'm here." Wow. And she must have heard the whole thing. And I actually laughed. I was like, "What just happened? This is insane." And I honestly, I thought about it for a second, and it made total sense. Like I didn't even need to hear that guy's story to know, surely he'd just come back from something. It just nothing that had just happened made any sense at all.
Wow.
And I just thought about that. It was just a little weird altercation in the drive-thru. It's like nothing. And no punches got thrown. It was just so weird. And that since then, I've met so many other people who who talk about that same kind of feeling where they drive too fast when they're back, or they're just like itching to get out of their skin all the time when they come back from service. So I want to see John kind of in that. He's trying to leave his service behind, but he's also just itching to get back where he can just blow up his problems. And he thinks he's done with service, but the service is not done with him. And there's this thing that comes for him that, in a way is kind of an analog to everything he's going through at home, but it's in a much more big, comic-y, bombastic kind of way.
Refresh people's memories now of the current status quo with the Green Lanterns, because they are not, they're under different jurisdiction. And in fact, we see it very clearly in this first issue of War Journal.
The status quo of the Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
So as established in Green Lantern 1 through 3, 1 through 4.
Sure.
The Green Lanterns have been, well, not dissolved, but they're as we saw at the end of the Jeff Thorne run, the Guardians are gone, and the power battery is gone. The central battery is gone. Like now, there's this thing that they call the source, like this big marble. It's a different kind of power source, and the Green Lanterns are just not quite the same thing. And now it's under the jurisdiction of the United Planets. And as we saw in Warworld Saga, the Lord Premier of the United Planets is a guy named Tharos, who was famously corrupt. So right now, they're not working for the Guardians anymore. They're working for the UP. And it's just a very different kind of scene. And so now we see this guy who, Green Lantern Veron, who is kind of a Nepo baby. he's a rich kid from Durla.
Okay.
Of the same species as Tharos.
Yes.
So yeah, he's got his fancy pants armor. He just is not like the Green Lanterns that we're used to seeing, And he shows up thinking he's detected. So now the Earth, or Sector 2814, where Earth is, has been quarantined, from the rest of the universe, because this is where all the problems come from. This is the
Hal
threat
guy, Kyle.
Yeah, the threat from Dark Crisis has just happened. There's all
Certainly.
these. Yet another crisis has gone down. So the UP solution is to cut off Sector 2814 as like a kind of a demilitarized zone.
Yes.
So now there are no Green Lanterns assigned here anymore. And we see the repercussions of that for Hal in the issues in the Green Lantern series. And we're going to see what it means for John in my series. So at the beginning, we see, John still has some power. We don't know that yet, but this Varon shows up having detected hard light energies.
Yes.
Even though nobody's supposed to have a ring here. And he's like, you still got your ring. You're under arrest. And he says he doesn't. And things go poorly.
And then also we have this other GL Shepherd.
Yeah. Green Lantern Shepherd that we see at the end. He comes from the backups in the Green Lantern series 1 through 3.
Okay.
It's from that other Dark Crisis world that we established, where it's a world in which, if anyone did not keep up with Dark Crisis, there's another world in which there is no Justice League, and Green Lantern, John Stewart, Green Lantern, is the only Superman they've ever known. There's no other superheroes. So it's just him, and then the lanterns that he establishes himself as Earth. Like, so now the Justice League on Earth is what John has called the Watchtower, which is this team of heroes, like his Knights of the Round Table that he himself creates. So he's kind of like the Paul Muad'Dib of the Green Lantern Corps, and there's basically no one else. And now instead of Oa, it's Earth, and the central battery is now in the form of his sister. But the lantern that kind of saves the day in that one, kind of his Galahad, is this very young dude named Kowlan Shepherd. And at the very end of those backups, John sends him here to catch the thing that's just gotten away. So we see Shepherd here on his mission. He's been given this mission by John Stewart from this other universe, and he comes here and finds our John. So yeah, that's kind of where things kick off.
Outstanding, man. No, it's truly intriguing, all this that you're setting up. And in fact, I agree with B. Graham. War Journal is good, man. Green Lantern Corps is my favorite after soups in the DCU. So stoked about this new series. I wasn't prepared for the emotion in this one either. I think it made me an instant John fan. Very
Thanks,
cool.
man. That's super kind to say. I guess what I really wanted to show, kind of my mission statement for the book more than any other, was to make John more complicated. There's a whole generation of DC fans who got to know John through the animated Justice League show, where he was the GL on that team.
Yes. And
anytime you see anytime there's a team book, especially when it's a very limited runtime, like a TV show or a 20-page comic or something, you've got to establish who all the characters are. And sometimes that kind of comes in the form of this sort of shorthand where you kind of have the thing that you need them to communicate. And like, okay, how would Flash say that? How would Diana say that? How would Bruce say that? And sometimes it's easy to kind of fall in the trap of, okay, well, Superman is the light, hopeful one. Bruce is the scowly one. Wonder Woman is the one that doesn't use conjunctions, everyone's kind of got their shorthand, right?
Right.
So sometimes that the shorthand that people sometimes get with John is that he's the former Marine guy, and I grew up knowing him as the architect. So whenever I saw the Marine, tough guy dude, I just felt like almost disrespectful. I guess it kind of boils him down a little too far, where you don't get how brilliant he is. Because to me, John was always supposed to be he was the guy that was always supposed to be Green Lantern, more so than anyone else. He was never the dark horse pick. He was the obvious choice. Never more so. This made so clear by the moment where he throws his mask away back in the day, like originally, where he throws away the mask and says, "I got nothing to hide." To me, that makes him like the consummate superhero, where he doesn't hide his face, not even to the degree that Superman does. So
Neil Adams was really kind of and just not so much in terms of how unfortunately the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie was disappointing, but he's like, where's John? Because as he pointed out, and as you're even saying, just describing the Justice League cartoon, he's like, millions of kids know who John Stewart is more so than Hal Jordan. And again, hey man, I'm old school. I love Hal. I love everybody. But yeah, it's like it was really great to see the awareness of John elevated because of that amazing animated series. Phil Lamar played the hell out of it. And yeah, good Lord. So yeah. And that's funny. I agree with Bob. Those 80s Green Lantern Court stories with Joe Staten was the John he loved. The Heart of that run. Green Lantern Mosaic as well. I think great series that focused on John back in the day.
Yeah, so, totally.
Yeah, let's see. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just met Joe Staten at Baltimore Con.
Oh, that's great. Did you guys talk shop?
We did a little bit. I need to send him some books. But he was
so good.
He was super kind, man. And
that's
there was this other guy that I had met very briefly at other Baltimore cons. He's just kind of the guy going around making sure everyone's got water, everyone's looked after. Wayne, he's a really nice dude and a massive John Stewart fan. And he had this book, this hardcover of stuff that he got signed by various people, and he brought it by, and he told me that Joe Staten was there. He's like, "Can you come get a picture?" And so we all took a picture together, and I don't know, it was just great. And we talked about him, talked about Hulk, we talked about, Joe's is such
what a career.
Kind, humble guy. Yeah.
Very sweet man. I met him and his wife at a few conventions. Yes, very sweet.
Yeah. They were both there. He was asking so we talked GL a little bit, told him about the new book, and he asked, like, I gotta pick up your other work. And I was like, just give me your address. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah.
He was like, what else are you doing right now? Because he'd heard he knew I was doing Superman.
Okay.
He asked what else I was doing, and I told him, and I mentioned, like, I'm doing Incredible Hulk at Marvel. And I said that in a way, because we have a connection. And he was like, oh, you don't say, like, I did Incredible Hulk. It's like, yeah, I know that. That's what
I know. Isn't that great? When they are that, truly, that is the great thing about Staten's generation and the generation prior to him, that, it's like, yeah, they're like, hey, I don't know if you knew this. And it's like, you're Joe Staten. Yes, we know. And it's like, yeah, man. No, I gushed about Dick Tracy with them.
Cool. Oh my God.
About Dick Tracy and everything. So
Hey, somebody, sorry, real quick. Dog on here says, I remember when John was a Dark Star.
yes,
All right. So about that, no one has really made much noise about that.
go
But
right ahead. Go,
at
Phil.
the end of the Green Lantern 3 backup story, we see after the Revenant Queen has apparently been obliterated, but actually has come over to our universe, we see that she has a ring of her own. And there's a Dark Star logo on it. And I was kind of expecting there to be this big like hubbub on the internet about it.
Sure.
And I don't think a lot of people really
picked up
noticed.
on it.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, there's a Dark Star ring, and we're gonna see what that means.
That's outstanding. Coach, I want to say his name right. Koshik Raha, or perhaps a woman. The Radiant Dead and their queen, whom you've set up since Action Comics, are pretty cool, Lovecraftian horrors. How did you try to avoid any comparisons to the Black Lanterns?
That is a fair question, and the answer is going to have to be told in the origin, kind of. It's going to be much more clear about what they come from. They're not really lanterns. There is a ring, so I understand how it would be. Well, actually, most of them don't have rings. The Revenant Queen has a ring.
Okay.
And that kind of explains where they all come from, but they're not lanterns. They do have a tie-in to something else much bigger. But we think, so DC fans think they know what Dark Stars are, where the whole concept of Dark Stars come from, but they don't. And we're going to see where the Dark Stars actually come from in my run. And that will make the origins of the Radiant Dead very clear and how they're different. But I'll say this: all of the Lantern cores get their power from a central battery, right? That is not where the Radiant Dead get their power. They are not so much a physical person that wears a ring and they use their emotional whatever, they use their motivation to power their stuff. They are themselves kind of like they become kind of a body shaped window into this other source. So it's a very, I know it's not, I probably should shut up before I spoil way too much.
Yeah, I don't want you to spoil. No.
But they don't take anything. They don't have a battery like everyone else does. And their power is not what it represents from all the other Lantern cores.
Very cool.
Hey, Michaela.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, he says he can't wait to see what happens with the Radiant Dead. Absolutely.
Michaela's great. She's an academic. Oh yeah, no. She's a comics academic in London. She teaches.
Oh, that's great.
Teaches and studies stuff to deal with comics and sequential art. And her mom is a hella Alien fan. She and her mom both have been unbelievably supportive of my work. And actually, her mom is Jane Laird, for whom I named the hero of Alien Revival that I did, my second Alien arc. That's named after Jane Laird. And the Alien Queen of this story, the Revenant Queen in this one, is also named Jane. So it's I saw another opening for another sort of Alien Queen. So
I'm glad you said that, and I'm sorry, Bob. I know you're watching Bob Harrison is watching via Facebook. I answered you at YouTube because he's like, hey, does Phil ever put any people he knows into his books? Well, we had mentioned it earlier, and Phil has reiterated it now. So you've got your answer.
Yeah, no, I try to do it pretty often. If you got to pick names anyway, I'm going to try to honor my readers. So Mickey, your time's coming. Don't worry. We'll get Mickey in there.
Eric wants to know who your favorite Lantern is. His is Hal.
That's
not because we're talking about it, John. I love John.
I don't want to say, man. That's
fine.
I mean, I'll say right now it's John, because I'm writing John, and I love that character. And there we go. Yeah, Mickey says, yeah, she infects comics. Very true.
That's cool, Michaela. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you. That's
infectious Jane Laird. Let's see. Right now it's John, because I'm just all about John Stewart for this book, and he's just such a dope character. If they gave me an opportunity to write like a Kyle Rayner book or something, I would have to do a deep dive on Kyle. And Ron Mars is a dear friend who co-created Kyle, and
of course
I did love the idea of a comic artist becoming a Green Lantern, just because of the unbridled creativity and skill those guys have to do that stuff.
It's always the right writer, the right character in the right writer's hands.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, really, the stuff that Jeff Johns did with Hal, again, going back to Infinite Crisis, they're about to face whatever the big bad was, and Hal and Ollie, and Hal's like, "Hey, did you end up getting those Yankee tickets and stuff?" And he's like, "We're about to go, and we may not be coming back from this mission." And he's like, "Yeah, but if we do, I just want to know that we're going to still see the ball game, right?" And it's like, yeah, because Hal is the man without fear. And no disrespect to Daredevil, but in both of them, that'd be a great crossover because you got the two men without fear. But that's the thing, yeah, man. No, that's Hal. And again, the guys like Chuck Dixon and Bo Smith, who wrote great stories about Guy. Again, as you mentioned, Ron and why am I blanking? From the real world, our buddy. Good Lord. Shame on me. He's doing Hilo right now, the children's books. Judd Winnick. Thank God.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Man, I got to start getting Prevagen because truly, I know too many names, and it's like, I love Judd. Judd know how to write, Kyle. So yeah, man, no, it's the right writer writing the right character.
Yeah, right now I'm all about John.
Chem Dog says Nort is his favorite.
Hey, that's great, dude.
Again, in the right hands, I love Nort. Of course. Come on, man.
I like this is not a popular answer. This is not like he's my favorite good guy, but I find him really interesting. I like Sinestro a lot.
I love what's been happening with Sinestro, and he is I kind of like still a bad guy, but every now and then has that anti-hero vibe going.
Yeah,
very much like Namor. We need more complicated characters. We need people like Metallo that occasionally does the right thing but still screws it up or whatever. So
yeah. I am I imagining this? Did Cullen Bunn do a really good Sinestro run?
Oh, good Lord!
Wasn't
Peanut Gallery, please respond.
I think
you're probably right.
I want to say Cullen Bunn did a Sinestro book that I really liked. But anyway, I like Sinestro a lot. I got to write a short story with Sinestro once. For a while, the anthologies at DC were getting very specific. Like there was one called Dog Days of Summer, and that was all
pets, dogs.
It was like animal themed summer stories. Like very specific. Sure. And there we go. Yeah, Cullen Bunn and Brad Walker.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks, guys. Lovely.
Let's see. And
I like what Chem Dog says. Sinestro never had a chance. His parents naming him Sinestro. You're right, man.
Yeah,
absolutely. You heard my I brought it up a month or so ago. Charlie Callis, who played Sinestro on those horrible 70s Challenge of the Superheroes kind of half comedy things, but all the DC heroes and villains are in it. And Charlie Callis looks exactly like a Gil Kane Sinestro. And the 90s, the comedian, I'm talking about the comedian, everybody, if you don't know who this guy is, look up Charlie Callis, Sinestro, and you will see how great he looks. He really didn't need much makeup. And he came to our sports radio station because he was doing comedy at one of the local casinos. And, obviously everyone's talking about working with Jerry Lewis and all the great comedians he worked with. And I'm like, hey, you're an awesome Sinestro. And he's got giant bulging eyes anyway. His eyes got bigger. And he nudged his handler and he goes, you see? He goes, there's one of you in every city. Only one. There's one of you in every city. Because it was like, 25 years earlier and stuff. And I'm like, oh, my God, you were an incredible Sinestro. So, that's awesome. Oh, that's good. Chem Dog knows who I'm talking about. Hilarious. Thank you very much. That's great. I wanted to
there was this one story. There's an anthology that they did called New Year's Evil. That was I want to say it was during the Year of the Villain. And so we all had these shorts, like these bad guy holiday themed stories.
Sure.
And Sinestro was flying past this world that he had once saved as a Green Lantern. And he sees what has become of that world since then, like many years later. And now they remember him as this god. It was kind of a very kind of basic barbaric culture with very little tech, like basically no tech.
Okay.
And so when he came down and saved them from alien invasion, so these aliens had invaded and they did have tech. And so Sinestro saved them all. And then years later they come back and they remember him as this god who flew down and saved them all. And they have they remember him with this holiday. They have like this celebration for him every however long, and he's passing by when he hears an explosion down there, and he goes down and checks it out, and it's this like festival for him, and they remember him. They give him another name. I can't remember what it was now, but the story was called Sinestro, Bright and Terrible, and and there's this like this guy who had been this teenager that was Sinestro's right hand in that battle that has now kind of raised himself up as their cult leader, basically, and he's kind of being a douchebag. And Sinestro is super angry that he's committing these crimes in his name, not because of the crimes themselves, but because he's sullying Sinestro's name.
Yeah, it's honoring Sinestro's name, sure.
Yeah, so he tries to course correct that culture again, and this time, and as he's leaving, because now he's wearing a different outfit now. He's not green anymore. So when he leaves, they wipe out the other stuff and put in his new mark. But anyway, it was really fun, man. I just really
That's great.
Character. You can see him doing the right thing almost by accident.
That's like Luther's Silver Age planet that I want to say Mark Russell brought back in one of his recent Superman stories, and I can't remember the name of it. Again, Peanut Gallery.
I can't either, but I know what you're talking about.
And then really, like, in that case too, Superman or Luther to Superman, it's like, hey man, these guys like me. Don't, please don't sully my. And they hate Superman. And I remember that there was a great cover. They have a fist fight because it has a red sun, and so it's Luther, and it's great. Silver Age, shot a Kurt Swan cover of Superman and Luther like in a boxing ring stuff.
Oh, and Luther's getting a good shot in. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. Gore Vidal, I want to get this comment in. He wants to know if you've ever read the Green Lantern special from '88 by James Owsley, who, of course, now we know is Christopher Priest, and Todd Smith, where John fights against apartheid.
I'm sorry to say I have not read that.
Sounds cool. I didn't know about it either. No,
my love of comics honestly came from kind of a meager stack of books compared to most people I know, really. Like even now, I feel like I'm playing catch up all the time. Like I'm very slowly filling all the holes in my game. There's just so much to read. So,
Michaela figured it out. The Luther plan, of course, is Lexor. And yeah,
that's such a Mark Russell thing too. I can see Mark just crushing a book like that.
He we'll be talking in October. He's got a great new book from Ahoy called Serial, and we will certainly showcase it. And I'm always happy to talk to Mark. I'm very happy. Guys like Mark and Chip Zdarsky that are getting the opportunity to tell more hero stories coming from their base of humor and everything.
Exactly.
He's great.
They have this great kind of funny but biting kind of man, I don't know. It's just such a great voice to have in comics, like that brand of satire is so that Flintstones book that Mark did. What the hell? That was 10 times better than it should have been.
and I didn't want to like it because it was off model.
Yeah.
And someone's like, read it. And I'm like, all right. And it's like, oh my God, it was hilarious. I loved their take on basically the VFW of Bedrock. And you had these cavemen that were kind of, still haunted by the wars they were in and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Wars. Great. No, very funny. No, I've really grown to really love everything Mark does. It's very, very funny stuff.
Yeah.
Eric wants to know if you ever want to write Batman and any Black Label pitches in your back pocket.
I do want to write Batman, and I do have an idea like that. I've got a couple actually. There's I would say 3 books in my mind that I would like to bring about.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I've already done a little bit of Batman. Like there was when I was in a writer's workshop, they let me do a Batman short I'm very proud of. It was only like 10 pages or something, 10 or 12, maybe 12. But the whole thing happens in free fall over Gotham. I was very proud of that. That was really fun. And actually the opening shot, page 1, is the exact shot that they used in the Flash film, where Batman, like the Batwing is overhead over the moon, and
yes,
and Batman's sailing out of it. It looks just like that. It was pretty cool. I did let's see, short for an anthology. I did the Dark Multiverse Batman story, the Batman Hush thing that they did in the second Tales of Dark Multiverse book.
Yep.
So I've had little opportunities. We got to write him into Action and some other places. So it's always a joy to write him. Yeah, I have a couple of stories I really want to do. One of them is about Scarface. I think Scarface is grossly underutilized. Talk about a cool, haunting character. The ventriloquist is
Yeah,
that.
that's what yeah, of course, the ventriloquist dummy Scarface, of course.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard, I believe it was produced by the BBC, they did an adaptation of Nightfall, and Scarface and the ventriloquist are in it. And it's so great because just as the dialogue is written, that ventriloquists have trouble with hard G's and various hard consonants and stuff, and you could hear the person acting as Scarface do the dummy voice with the difficulty on the consonants and stuff, and it was so perfect.
That's
It
awesome.
killed me. Yeah.
There was a very short story. I got it in like a trade paperback format, but it was very short. It might have been just like the equivalent of an issue or two. But there was a story with Scarface, and there was like a female puppet as well.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Sure.
Man, it was good. I don't remember the creative team, but it ended on this really awesome way. That was meant to be this, like you'd see this body. Like if it was a real person, it would have been this awful murder, but it was a puppet, like at the bottom of the river or something. And it was just the way it was done. It just made me just kind of open up my eyes with what you could do with the ventriloquist Scarface book. So there's this book I want to do called Dummy.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That I would love to do.
Robotarts 100 agrees with you. Arthur Wexler is great because you can play it both ways. Him doing it all himself or Gotham infected the dummy. Absolutely, man. Very funny. Well, Philip, honestly, I want to keep going. Is that okay? Because I don't want to.
Yeah, please.
Okay, good. Because we haven't. In fact, Robert wanted to know. Hey, I'm back. Did we get to the Hulk yet? We're about to right now, man. Jesus, what a very cool first 4 issues. And again, sorry everybody, I mentioned Travel Foreman. He's on Hulk 4, but Nick Klein killing it as well on art. And I am such a sucker for the Man Thing, and I love his appearance in this story. And we could just very quickly because I love the fact too that not only have you got the Man Thing, but you've got his human form, Ted Sallis, in there as well, which is great. I can't remember the last time someone referenced Ted Sallis. I love Man Thing.
Yeah, me too, man. Honestly, I did not expect the level of love for Man Thing when I brought him out. I think he's dope, and I wanted to use him. I will say in issue 5, I wish I'd used him more. I guess we only have 2 issues for this story because I've been writing each issue for the artist, and I had Nick for the first 3 issues. And now Travel is doing 4 and 5, and then Nick is back. Nick Klein is back on 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
And then we have another artist we have not announced yet for 9 and 10 that I'm really stoked about. But Nick is going to be like the standby guy. Nick Klein is doing most of the issues. When I knew that Travel was going to be on board for 4 and 5, I was like, I think he would do really great at a Man Thing story.
Okay.
But when we got rolling, I realized, man, I wish we'd done more I wish we had more space for Man Thing. I'm going to go ahead and say that it's kind of a regret. I kind of want to do another Man Thing story now to bring out more. Because even in issue 5, the emphasis is on Hulk, his companion right now, Charlie, the young girl, and
I want to talk about Charlie. Keep going.
And on the thing that they're facing, the Swamp Witch.
Yes.
There is some Man Thing in it, of course, but Man Thing's role is basically to bring Hulk because he needs him. So I wish there was more space for a proper team up or fight. I mean, we see them fight. We see Man Thing on the page. There's definitely Man Thing in it. But I've seen such an upswell of love for Man Thing. I kind of want to bring him back.
Well, you're going to have to revisit it, man, coming
up. I think I'm going to do it.
Let's talk about Charlie, and of course the various sidekicks, teenagers that the Hulk has interacted with, going back to Rick Jones, of course, Amadeus Cho, Jim from the Peter David years, right? Jim, wasn't it Jim? And Charlie's great, very interesting character. Comes from a troubled background, and really doesn't want to connect with Bruce. Wants to connect with the Hulk.
Yeah, one real gift that we got from the Donny Cates Ryan run was how awful the relationship is now between Hulk and Banner. Like Banner, that kind of made Banner the threat, where Banner kind of basically enslaves Hulk and locks him inside of his own mind. So now Hulk's out, and oh boy, is he mad! And it just so now it gives us the chance to make Hulk the legit monster of the movie. You know, where he is the thing that is stalking Banner all the time from behind his eyes. You know.
Yep.
So we get to do these stories kind of like The Ring or It Follows or Smile, where he's the thing that he's running from is inside of himself, which honestly all of us can relate to. I mean, it's kind of a metaphor for addiction, sort of like where you have these things that you want in your life and you just wish you could, you wish you could control that aspect of yourself that keeps you from getting the things you want. Like if only I was better at whatever this thing is, or if only I could get up in the morning, or if I could stop eating, or if I could, leave the booze alone, or like my gambling addiction, whatever the thing is that you hate about yourself or try to control. Like at some point you fall off the wagon and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? And all you can do is like run again or try to pick up the pieces. And that's what this story is. Charlie is this girl. I want my whole story to be like kind of the Southern Gothic,
yes,
creepy folk horror kind of thing. Very much inspired by stuff like Hellboy, the Crooked Man. Do you know that chapter? The one that
Sure.
Richard Corbin drew.
Yes.
It just feels so much like the South, and it's so haunting and creepy. And that change in tone is what I wanted to do to kind of help set this apart from Al Ewing, Joe Bennett's run.
Sure. No, honestly, it is this Southern Gothic religious cult that absolutely is creepy, and the Age of Monsters, as you call it, returning. There's an ancient evil here that both Bruce and the Hulk are going to have to face and are facing. And
it's really fun.
No, it's a great backdrop. Absolutely.
They're letting me do my back matter thing at the end of the issues, right? I get a page at the back of every.
Yes, please, Phil. Talk about that.
At the back of every arc. And the arcs are really short. I want this whole run to be nothing but jumping on points where everyone can, because I had those old comics when I was a kid where you could just get a one shot or a two shot and you get the whole story there. Man, I love that. And I want that back. So that's what we're doing here. And at the end of every arc, there's going to be a page called The Remembrances of Eldest, in which Eldest kind of gives a little tribute to the thing that Hulk just faced. So yeah, we do that in issue 3 about Brother Deep, and we're doing that in issue 5 for the Swamp Witch, and they're all super different. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to be doing it for the creatures we already know. I mean, Man-Thing is not necessary because Man-Thing is not really in Eldest control, and they're allies in that book. But whenever there's a familiar enemy that readers already know about, I'll probably keep doing it because I like it.
Great.
And we get the letter pages too, and the other issues.
I saw that in 4. Absolutely, man.
Man, I love those.
Yeah.
I wanted them in action, man. I wanted the Metropolis mailbag, but we'll see. Maybe we can still get it.
Yeah, we'll see. Absolutely, man. No, that's terrific. Jay wanted to know if you're going to tie in this run with John Hickman's Gods.
Not yet. That doesn't mean no. The issues that are done so far are do not impact Hickman's Gods or vice versa. But honestly, it might work out nice that way. I don't know. I will say, I'll go ahead and spoil this little detail. The creatures that, because of the origins of everything that he's facing, the monsters that we're going to see Hulk up against all come from Earth. We're not really going to see Hulk facing aliens just yet. At least not as part of the main story. Not to say there's not going to be any aliens ever appear, but for the foreseeable future, the origins of the Mother of Horrors and Eldest and all that is all kind of tied up in the origins of Earth. So we're not going to see him facing stuff we're not going to see him against the Brood or anything like that. Those are a different kind of thing.
Fair enough. No. Again, I love Hulk running around the South chasing Banner, and
Man,
and
I
I
love
think
it.
Charlie's a really interesting addition to the cast.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I think I accidentally missed the Charlie question. So Charlie is, yeah, she's this kid who's in the South and from Kentucky, like coal mining country, a place I know fairly well, and
Okay.
and she's just looking to get out where she's at. She just really desperately wants to get out of that town, and that's not a slam on anyone from Estill County. Okay, that's just this girl wants to, mostly she wants to get out of her actual, like, her home situation with her dad,
Yeah.
which we'll also learn more about as we go. So she idolizes Cap. She thinks that Cap is the greatest and loves how he's like the poster child, right? He's like, he's the super patriot. He's super tough, super fast, super strong, super good looking. And she's like, Cap's the man. And she just dreams about Cap coming and like swooping her away and like, we're going to, go off together and I'll be the new Bucky. And so one day, finally, she's just had enough. She tries to steal her dad's car, but she does end up running away, like just frantically trying to escape. And she does get her way out, but it's not Cap that shows up. It's Hulk. And suddenly that becomes her new obsession. Like, oh my God, like this is the most powerful thing I've ever seen. And she hates her own weakness. So when she sees Hulk, she's like, oh my God, this is everything I've ever wanted to be. And she's like just obsessed. But then when she sees Banner, she's like, what the fuck? Like, this guy's just a scrawny little bitch. Like, this is not what I wanted at all. And she has this disdain for Banner because she sees her own weakness in him. She sees like he's just the scrawny nerd. And he's all like, be careful. No, stay away. It's not safe. Everything that she doesn't want to hear any of that stuff. She wants Hulk around. So she has a very different relationship with Hulk than she does with Banner. And even Hulk says, like, Hulk doesn't want her around because he's like, you're Banner's friend. And at the end, when he agrees to let her stay, he's like, you make anything easier for Banner, we are done.
Yep.
So it's this crazy, not love triangle, but like hate triangle between the three of them.
Absolutely.
It's really fun. I love it.
That's fantastic. I suspect this might be a plot point, so I will ask it, but you are under no obligation to answer. What happened with Charlie's friend?
I will tell you because he's kind of out of the picture. What was his name? Was it Dale?
I don't remember.
Or Rusty? It might have been Rusty.
Okay.
Anyway, so her friend in the first issue, Charlie, her dad is sleeping it off. And so she and her friend are putting together her grandma's old Mustang, so that she's been kind of fixing up the Mustang as her dad sleeps, and he doesn't know about it. He thinks it's just sitting there rusting out. And she and her friend, I'm pretty sure it's Rusty. So she and Rusty are going to take the Mustang and drive to Florida. And as they're putting it together, like they're just putting the wheels on and they're going to split, and then they screw up and it falls off the jack and makes this big noise, and Dad comes out. And Rusty just runs away. That was one little change from the script that actually ended up on the page. Every now and then something gets left out of a page just for reasons of space or something else is more important or something.
Sure.
It was supposed to show Rusty running away as Dad comes out because Rusty's just terrified of her abusive dad. So Rusty just kind of leaves her. He runs away, just terrified. Okay. And then he ends up beating up Charlie, and she runs too.
Sub Nero wants to know, the agents that were hunting Hulk in the first issue said that Tony and the Avengers were standing by. Will we still see a Hulk Avengers crossover?
Probably shouldn't talk about that. I don't know for sure. Actually, the answer is I don't really know for sure. It's possible.
All right, there you go. That's plenty. Don't kid yourself. Robert wants to know, is the Southern Gothic horror the plan for the long run, or are there plans to ever get to super heroic Hulk? He doesn't mind either way. He's just asking.
Oh, thanks, Robert. I know Robert. I've done Robert's show. He's a good dude. I want to do what we're doing for the foreseeable future. Actually, I'm having a great time. I will say I don't want people to see Hulk as the villain of the series. And in this next arc that we're about to show, actually 6, 7, and 8, I am really proud of and very personally attached to. For various reasons. And that is also the issues in which we start to see, because Charlie wants to be Hulk's sidekick, right? She wants to be Hulk's like Bucky,
Yeah.
and she wants powers. She thinks that like being around Hulk, she's in it for the powers, kind of. She wants to be strong like Hulk is. You see her kind of aping his behavior as they go on. You see her just trying to be more like him and saying the stuff that he says. We're going to start to see her kind of try to steer Hulk more in the direction that she thought she was going to be going in. Like she thinks of Hulk as the Avenger,
Yes.
She's still kind of shifting her vision from Cap to Hulk. Cap is the ultimate, like the first Avenger and all that. Like, well, Hulk's an Avenger too. That's cool.
Right.
But the version of Hulk that we're seeing is not an Avenger, and it's hard to believe he ever was.
Sure.
But we are going to start seeing her kind of asking him, like, we got to help these people. We're going to start seeing her, influence Hulk's actions a little bit more.
Okay.
Because she wants him to be a hero, and Hulk's,
doesn't want to be here.
Hulk's mission statement, like his line that kind of like guides him is "Leave me alone." He just wants to be left alone. He doesn't want to help anyone. You find him kind of doing the right thing, but he's kind of annoyed about it. Like when Charlie falls into the mine,
yeah,
he dives. He's like, I got to do this stupid thing, and he dives in after her, but he's not happy about it. So we're going to start to see him doing the right thing. Kind of through Charlie's influence, because she wants him to be a hero. So he kind of, even though he and Banner kind of, Hulk hates Banner and wants the body full time. Banner is terrified of Hulk and knows he's going to get the body full time at some point. You still find both Banner and Hulk being the hero kind of in the cracks, like finding ways to help people as they can. Banner's trying to protect Charlie from Hulk. Hulk wants to be left alone. But in the end, they still kind of save the day in begrudging ways.
That's great, man. Landon has a Superman question. Do you think it was a good idea to make John take over for Clark when he was on Warworld instead of Kara or Connor? And if so, why? A lot of people think it should have been Kara or Connor instead. Well, certainly they had more experience than John prior to taking over. But yeah, your thoughts?
A lot of people think, huh? That sounds like a Trump line, if I may say so.
A lot of people out there, they love
yeah.
They love Connor, they love Kara, absolutely.
Everybody's saying it, not me. So anyway, I'll say this. Kara had her own story going on in that terrific, book with Tom and Bilkis. Yeah.
Yeah, Bilkis, yeah.
So, and now Connor has his series as well, Superboy. So
yeah,
we were kind of establishing John's new place, like it's less about what made sense for like who deserves it. It's not like a promotion at work, right? It's more about how are we going to make all these characters what we want them to be. And, honestly, John had only recently been aged up. And we had this new title coming, Superman, Son of Kal-El, where he was kind of filling his father's shoes, on Earth while he was away. It was a great way to show John in the next stage of his development,
Yes, you had to grease the wheels because this story idea of John as more of a young adult was coming. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
no,
it was more in service. The idea was more in service to John than it was in service of this fictional Earth,
Right.
Like,
no, absolutely, man.
However, sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
no, answer the question. It's more about you than me, please.
I will say Kara, I mean, in part, the reason for the Kara series that Tom and Bilkis did, I hope I'm saying her name right. I honestly don't know. I never met Bilkis. I've been saying it Bilkis, but it might be Bilquist. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't honestly, I don't know either, but we all know who you mean, Bilkis Everly.
Yeah,
obviously.
God, her art is
my God,
staggeringly beautiful.
Yeah, and how great is it that James Gunn wants to we're doing that. That is going to be a movie, and it's like, yes, please. Good Lord.
I can't believe how beautiful the art is. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, so yeah, and Tom did this incredible book. So that was about establishing Supergirl as an equal to Superman, Sure. And I've always seen Kara a little bit different than I typically see her portrayed on the page. To me, she is, which I think that you, hopefully, I think you see. Oh, my printer just kicked on. Sorry about the noise.
Oh, not at all. No, it's all good.
Was I for so rudely interrupted by my technology?
Kara, her
Yeah, oh,
role.
yeah. So in my story, Kara is more kind of the matriarch of the L's, because she's the only one who
Yes,
actually remembers Krypton.
that's right.
People kind of turn to her for advice or Kryptonian lore or information. Sometimes she kind of dresses Clark down a little bit, like you're making a mistake, or like don't do this, or
Well, yeah, because she was the babysitter.
yeah. And he respects,
so-
Clark kind of defers to her sometimes and should. I think that she's supposed to be the most badass of any of them, which is why she has such a place of honor in the House of L stuff.
Agreed.
When we did the annual where we see her in the future with the House of L, and she's the one in charge. She has the fortress of not Solitude, the fortress of Sanctuary on the moon. That's like a city that she made. Like that's her place.
Certainly.
So it would have made sense for Kara to do it, to be the new Superman of Earth, basically. But it was all about developing the character of John, like giving John his story, while Kara was getting her story in that other run, and hopefully we'll continue to get stuff. As far as Connor, and I do feel the pain of all like hardcore Connor fans and want him to be more at the fore, because Connor's not been truly at the fore in a while, especially now with John being the new guy. And I get that, but they did give him a good series recently. Like that series was legit.
I'm with you.
And we're going to continue to use him. I personally want to use Connor more. There's stuff that I would love to do a series with just Connor. I think there's a lot of room. Wouldn't it be cool to see Connor in Legion?
Yes.
I mean, I think it was cool to see John with Legion for sure, but it would be so fun to see somebody whose culture is so like his personal like style and the way he talks and acts and everything is so modern day America. To see him in the context of Legion in the future will be dope.
No, I agree. And also, again, I think his backstory keeps getting more complicated with the introduction of John. And it really, exactly. I mean, Connor likely has Jan Brady syndrome, almost middle kid, what about me? That kind of thing.
It's been really fun to see. Actually, that was probably the most fun element of the Night Terrors thing, was that we got to see more of Connor and Kenan, kind of in the I think in the solicits, I think said something about who will be the final L, I guess, in place of final girl in the horror movie. Connor is, with like the cut off sleeves and all that, and the hair that he always wears and everything, hanging out with Kenan. I just love seeing those two together. It's been fun seeing those two together in the context of the action series, but also seeing them in Night Terrors in the context of the horror movie teen group was also really fun. I love writing Connor. I know the stories I've been doing in action so far, I know they have not been super Connor centric just because of the kinds of stories that we've been doing. Because the stories end up kind of telling themselves. And I felt like if I had brought Connor like really to the fore, it would have been a little bit shoehorned. And for the specific stories we've been doing, it made sense for Connor to be kind of the guy, kind of like Kenan's bro, that show, it made more sense to see him and Kenan kind of be in their truer selves together, because they both kind of have that ego. They kind of have the fun trash talk kind of style. And I don't know, I could see them being really close.
I like it. And others have said, and I agree with Eric. Yeah, I'd like to see more of John and Connor together, because I could see, maybe a little resentment from Connor when it comes to John, but also John being likely like his father, an understanding guy, and want to help that out or whatever. But also people, as you mentioned, the Legion, both Vengeance and B. Graham are all for you writing a Legion book.
Hey,
so that would be cool.
I won't say no. I'd have to bone up on it. I had some old Legion books in my stuff. I still have them somewhere, but I did have some old, I want to say Paul Levitt's issues. Could that be right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's the best. To me, he's the best modern Legion writer. Yeah. I mean, Otto Binder obviously was great, and Jim Shooter was great in his day.
Yeah. I got to go back and find those issues. But and somebody in-house had also mentioned the possibility of using the Super Twins in the context of Legion. That would be really interesting to see, like,
sure.
But
Absolutely.
we'll have to see.
No, that'd be great. This is interesting. Ouroboros Snake wants to know if you have any ideas for the freedom fighters, the quality heroes. Uncle Sam seems to be a character you would do well with. Yeah, you ever think about him and Dollman and Phantom Lady and Black Condor?
I don't think about those guys much. I'd have to do some real research into them. I've read like I think one issue ever of that stuff.
Okay.
I will say, I don't know, maybe. I think hopefully now I've earned enough goodwill on writing various things that might be okay. When I first went onto the Cap, I've talked about this on this show, I know, but when I did the Cap miniseries, I did a tie-in on Al Ewing's Empire event. And it was a 3-issue Cap run where they told me they had a very clear mission statement for that book. They said, for these issues, Cap, like while Avengers and X-Men are doing their thing, or Fantastic Four rather, Cap gathers all the militaries of Earth and leads the charge against the Katati threat. And I did that, but then people took it, and I also said, "Oh yeah, cool, we can use Shield." And they're like, "Actually, Shield's not around anymore." Like, okay, well then, what if we did like a modern day Howling Commandos? And so we kind of had Cap leading this team of American soldiers, who are also named after my friends, Bob Harrison.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But it was really fun. But right after that, they announced me on Superman, and people got real nervous that I was going to make it a big U.S. Army propaganda book. And they didn't understand that, that was like the whole point of that other book. So now anytime I'm going to do, I know sometimes I get the opportunity to do a book, probably including John Stewart, because of my military service. And I'm always a little careful that people don't think I'm, trying to sell propaganda in the pages of that book. That's something I actually actively try to avoid doing. I got an opportunity to write a book at Marvel at some point that would have had U.S. Agent as the lead character, and I was like, nope. I'm not doing it. And it wasn't even that long after the Cap thing. I was like, hell no, man. I understand why you're asking me, but I don't think it's a good idea.
Interesting. Okay.
So not to say I'm not interested in ever writing that character, but I don't know. Just because of the perception, I need to avoid the perception of being of impropriety,
I'm so with you. No, and I agree with Snake here, who says they don't know who you are if they think you're a propagandist. Absolutely.
Oh, thanks, man.
No, your writing is very, varied. So that's cool. Well, Eric, he as Phil said, he did write Captain America, but he says I guess Punisher's off the table.
I think Punisher probably should be off the table.
I haven't had a chance to really dip into the new character that has assumed the Punisher role. And I really have to, kind of backtrack and catch up on that.
David Pepose is writing it, and he's a good friend.
Yes.
David and I
he's a good writer. Yeah, man.
Yeah, David and I are super tight, and he and I kind of came up together. He and I tabled next to each other at Heroes Con years ago. And since then we've kind of kept up with each other, and he's been doing awesome. And now he's like the golden boy at Marvel and just kicking ass.
No, he's doing great. Yeah.
He reached out to me. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. He reached out to me when he had the chance to do that book. And he was mindful of the waves that it might make. Of changing the Punisher character and putting someone else in Frank Castle's shoes. He's like, I don't know if I should do it. I was like, dude, you got to do it. Like, I would do it. Although now, like, as my role in the military, I probably shouldn't do it. And I mean, I wasn't offered it anyway, but I'm saying I was kind of excited at the prospect when he was talking about what he could do. I was like, dude, I think you should totally do this book. And he's doing great. He was the right choice for it. So it's probably not a good idea for me to write that book. Not that anyone's asking.
Landon wants to know what your favorite Hulk is.
Man, gun to the head, I guess Immortal.
Okay. Sure, Al's run.
But Planet Hulk too was just absolute top stuff. Like every bit as good as Immortal. Both of them were just so iconic. If I had to give one the edge, I would say Immortal, just because it rather than being such a great departure, Planet Hulk worked so amazingly well as departure. It was one of those ideas that was so good. I was almost sorry, excuse me.
Not at all.
It was one of those ideas that was so good, you kind of like pissed that you didn't think of it. Like it seems so obvious in retrospect. I just love the idea of them sending Hulk away because he just breaks things, and then he finds this other place, and he finds his perfect environment. They try to give him the perfect environment where he'll be happy. Instead, he finds a perfect environment where he becomes like the man,
The ultimate gladiator, absolutely.
Yeah.
And World War Hulk when he comes back.
Yeah.
When he crushes Doctor Strange's hands, and when he faces Black Bolt on the moon, and Black Bolt, all he says is stop, but of course the force of his voice, and he fights through it and beats the shit out of Black Bolt.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. Yeah, he's strongest there is. Absolutely, man.
It's just brilliant work. It just made so much sense. The thing that made Immortal Hulk so great was the way he tied it into the original concept of what Hulk was supposed to have been. He was always supposed to be a monster book, like where he changes at night into this thing, and it was like a legit Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde / Frankenstein kind of thing, in a line that had become like a superhero line. He wanted a monster book, and then over time it kind of became more of a superhero story. But Al just jerked it right back to the monster origins, and I loved it. So, I mean, the hardest thing about taking over the book was like how not to just copy that. And in the end, we did that by steering away from the Cronenberg body horror and more into like Del Toro / Mignola kind of thing.
Absolutely. Lana wants to know your thoughts on Peter David's run.
It's good, man. I mean, I don't know what to say about it that hasn't already been said. He's it's not my touchstone run, but Peter David, of course, I mean, his contributions to that character cannot be overstated. And that run is well deserving of the love it gets. Yeah. The ones that speak to me more clearly are Planet Hulk and Immortal, but it's still super iconic and tons of great stuff in it. And Bruce Jones too. Like there's great stuff
Bruce
out there.
Jones.
Yeah.
Yes. And I see echoes of Bruce's stuff in your run because again, we're kind of in that fugitive kind of role for Bruce. So I understand. Oh, Eric wants to know what's in your current pull list.
I don't have a literal pull list. My reading that I do is often is kind of driven by what I'm writing at the time. There's a lot of research in it. Not just research into a specific character, but also I just try to read the stuff that is influencing my run. I also read with my son a lot, so that also kind of steers some things. But so like right now I'm reading an old Tolkien book called Rover Random to my son, and even though it's for him, it's also for me because I just love Tolkien's like the musical quality to Tolkien's language. For anyone who doesn't know, Tolkien and his family were on the beach, and his second son, who was at the time like 4 or 5, had a little lead or pewter dog or something, and he lost it and was very sad about it. And he lost it on the beach someplace, and his dad wrote all these stories about the adventures that the dog had after that, and that was his way of kind of making his son feel better about the lost dog. So now there's this little collection of stories, and it's just about a little like these fantasy stories, almost like how would you describe it? Almost like Lewis Carroll stuff, kind of, but wow. but in Tolkien's voice, and it's beautiful stuff. Before that, I read him Farmer Giles of Ham, another Tolkien story about a farmer and this dragon that he meets. Next, I think I'm going to take him through some of Tolkien's other non-Middle Earth stuff. Like he has this great translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and the Fall of Arthur and various things. As far as comics, I don't usually stay current month to month on things because sometimes a bit of time will pass before I get back to reading a comic. That's new. I mean, like new stuff.
Sure.
So sometimes I will buy new stuff and trade. Like actually my last trip, let me see, I got it sitting around here somewhere. Let me grab my stack is like 6 feet away. Let me grab it.
No problem, man. Do it.
My friends at DC are going to think I'm a dumbass because I get this stuff for free when I want it, but I like having the volumes too.
Sure.
So I went and got Chip Zdarsky's Batman: The Failsafe volume.
Outstanding. Great story.
Great story. I'm not caught up on that. I also have this copy of The Night. Let's see. One Bad Day Riddler, One Bad Day Two-Face. A couple of Night Terrors things I had missed. I had not read my friends Dan Waters and Ricardo Federici's Detective Comics issue yet, so I got that. The Titans one by that my friend Scott Godlewski drew, and the Human Target Volume 1.
Oh man, what a story!
Yeah,
awesome. Smallwool's art, and I'm always embarrassed to admit this, but I will. It's like, how can you not fall in love with Ice the way he draws her?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's just like, oh.
And the way that, Smallwood's art, I'm just gonna flip through here while we're talking.
I mean, Tom's great, don't get me wrong, but truly, it's like I've been a fan of Greg's before Moon Knight, everything he's ever done. Dreamweaver at Dark Horse. No, he's a brilliant artist.
Yeah, there are all these. Man, this can't be fast to do this work. It's incredibly good. Anyway, like these pages, a lot of like the 6-panel pages and like various really cool layouts. Lots of like little close-up shots. At one point, I was asking Tom about that stuff. We were at a con, like having a drink and talking, and I asked him, like, when you do those pages, do you describe every little panel? Do you actually say, like,
this is what I want. Yeah.
Here's the bedside thing. Here's now the drawer's opening. Now he's holding the thing. Do you have to dictate all that, or is that all Greg? He's like, no, I dictate it usually. And he said that, I think he said that Clay Mann said that he is almost like animation. Like it's all these very, very small panels that sometimes change just slightly from panel to panel. It's almost like taking frames out of an animated shot.
Sure. I definitely like in Heroes in Crisis. You got that vibe.
Right.
As everyone's giving their testimonials and things. Yeah.
Yeah. So for some reason, it really spoke to me in the Smallwood, the way that it works, and that with those layouts are so artistically done, man. I mean, God, it's just brilliant work.
Do you know the paperback novel cover artist, Robert McGinnis?
Yes.
That a lot of Greg's stuff for Human Target reminds me.
Yeah, completely.
Kind of McGinnis inspired and everything. So
stylistically, it's just perfect.
I'm with you, man. No, that's a wonderful story. Hell, I'm loving the Penguin miniseries right now. Danger Street, as I just spoke to Tom, last night, so intricately complicated in the best way.
Yeah, I'm such a lame ass. I'm not caught up. I need to catch up on that.
You're not a lame ass. Man, everyone's busy. I don't know about you. Do you stay away from certain things because you don't want it to influence your own storytelling?
No. I've never felt that way. I reject the idea that more information is harmful. Like I always I want my work to be more informed rather than less.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never, I mean, an example would be Immortal Hulk, right? Like if I had already read all of Immortal Hulk. Actually, you know what? I don't think I had caught up in the very end of it, but I had read most of it when I got offered the gig. But if I hadn't, and I told myself, well, I shouldn't read Immortal because I know it's amazing and I don't want my work to be the same. I don't know. To me, there's kind of this inherent arrogance in it because, like, well, am I saying I don't want mine to be just as good as this brilliant once in a lifetime work? And also, I don't know. It just seems kind of limiting to not expose myself to such a brilliant work would have been like just, cutting off my own hand. So I would rather read that work and 20 others. you know, instead, I mean, yes, if that was all I was going to be able to read, then that would be kind of limiting, because then that's my only vision for what the concept is. But if you just if you read a ton of other shit too, then you start to just flesh out a much more complete picture of what a character can be, or what a story is.
By the way, B. Graham says he cherishes his Last God hardcover. Awesome.
Oh, thanks.
That's great to hear. A lot of people have been asking, including Robert and others, if your plan is to stay on the Hulk to get to 800.
Huh. I hadn't thought about, I actually don't think about stuff like that. That's more of a marketing question, I guess.
Sure.
I don't really care as much as maybe I should. I know a lot of writers do. They're like, oh, this is, this issue is this is going to be legacy number, whatever. We got to do a big splash for it. And that kind of stuff might help it sell. Honestly, I'm just so low on bandwidth. I just want to make great stories, and
I respect that.
And not care about that stuff.
Well, and unlike DC, that has gone back to legacy numbering, like Action and Detective and the like, Marvel's, and they shoot themselves in the foot. Where I remember the one year where there were 3 different number ones for Squirrel, or within a year and a half, there were 3 different number ones for Squirrel Girl. And it's like, okay, but if I'm looking at the trade, what do we do? And I always say the way to do it is keep the legacy numbers, because I think that's an achievement, especially as the magazine business disappears. And when you think of Detective in Action going back to the late 30s, that's an amazing achievement. But do Action, as you hear, I'm going to bring up the cover again for Action for your 1057. Fine, Action 1057, Revenge of the Demon, Part 1. And then, by all means, for the graphic novel, Revenge of the Demon, Action, Revenge, or Superman, Revenge of the Demon. It's like, it's so simple. And it's like, name your trades after your arcs. Don't be so concerned about volume 1 when you've got a million volume 1s and everything. It's like, you're fucking yourself. I'm sorry. It's stupid.
Yeah.
David Gabriel, are you listening to me? Do it that way. For God's sake, man. I've never met you. I have great admiration for you, but the numbering drives me insane with Marvel. There you go. There's my
John's pissed.
That's my
pissed, David.
No, I don't give a shit. Much like yourself, Phillip, I don't give a shit. And that's why when it's like, hey, it's Spider-Man 900, and it's like, all right.
I've heard, I don't really know the numbers. I will say, whenever you get on sites like Comic-Con or the IEBFC, whatever the thing is, the other one, those numbers that they put up are made up based on sources that they reach out to, but it's not actual, like they're just kind of guessing. The numbers
it's gotten that much more, forgive me, it's gotten that much more complicated. John Jackson Miller, who beyond doing Comic-Con is a fantastic paperback writer who has written a ton of my favorite Star Trek novels and Star Wars novels and the like. And it's like you said, yeah, I mean, it's such a limited source of where they're generating the numbers, and Batman is kind of the lead book, and then all the numbers go under there. Yeah. And truly everyone that follows that horse race, it's like, I just want to read good books. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I'm sure they're actually pulling the numbers from something. I don't know how they're coming to their conclusions, but I also know firsthand that they don't match reality. And that's a little, I don't know, like when people get wrapped up in that stuff, it's a little, I don't know, it's a little frustrating to that. I don't want to jump out and say it's all lies. I'm sure they're doing something to come to those numbers, but if they're relying on specific retailers to give them numbers, and then they're blowing those out, that's not data. It's not complete data, I should say. It's an incomplete data set. So I will say I've heard secondhand that so of course, anytime there's, and I don't know, I probably shouldn't even talk about this because I'm so ignorant compared to other people. I'd be curious to hear Mark Wade's take on it, because I know he has much more complete experience in the comic industry. But from my limited experience, I understand that the attrition, there's always going to be attrition throughout a series. There's like numbers always drop off, literally always, over the course of a monthly run. And then hopefully they get little bumps as the trades come out and everything. So it's, generally it should find a place where it levels out, and then sometimes there'll be a spike, and hopefully it'll stay up a little again for a little while before it falls again. I'm told that Marvel attrition rates following number ones are more steep because the way Marvel handles their covers, like they always sell a lot of number ones based on variants,
of course,
and just bring, like, going back number one over and over again. And they kind of give their numbers little spikes that way, but they also drop off more abruptly afterwards, I'm told. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense. I know when I was writing Alien, that was coming out during COVID.
Yes.
And we had the paper shortage, right? And then so Marvel had to start staggering some of their release dates. And I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like they were targeting some of their licensed books more than their, like, if they're going to spread out some of the print dates, it made sense that they would do so on, Alien or Star Wars or Conan or something, as opposed to Cap and Avengers. So they were kind of spreading out some of the release dates, sometimes as much as a month or more past what they normally would have done. So we had issues in the can that weren't coming out on time. And numbers dropped as a result, right? So then after the first 12 issues, they went back to number one again. As I understand, they didn't say it was to give numbers a boost, but it was still the same universe that was happening in the first 12. It seemed like it was to give numbers a little spike, and they did that on Predator, I think, after the first miniseries, and then again, and now, like, they went back to Alien number one again with Declan's run. So it just seems like
I just talked
how to do business,
Yeah, I just talked to Declan last week about his the start of his run. No, I get it, and seriously, everyone, and I hope if this gets back to David Gabriel, he knows I'm just blowing off steam. I won't deny that the legacy numbers do matter, but absolutely, man, no, David has made distribution in numbers a science that they take very seriously at Marvel. I know many runs that started as ongoings became limited series very quickly because the numbers just didn't support the idea of going beyond whatever the current story arc was.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's a business. I'll tell you this. I'll say this. I'm speculating on some of this, but I know David Gabriel is universally praised for the work that he does over there.
100%. Absolutely, man. So yeah, David, if all you hear is part of it, I will have evidence now that I said nice things and I mean it. No. He's highly regarded, and there's a good reason for that. Absolutely. Snake wants to know which DC character would you write a horror book with? Would one with Superman worth? Good work. Good two-part question.
What DC character would I write a horror book with? Well, I mean, Constantine for sure.
Okay.
But because that basically is one already.
Of course.
If you're going to talk about one that's not already a horror book, yeah, my mind goes to Constantine, Spectre, Deadman, because I love those characters anyway.
Love them all.
But if I was going to make one that's not a horror book into a horror book, I would say Aquaman.
Interesting. Wow. Very cool.
Ocean's scary, man. It's this Wild West place where you don't know what's down there, and even it's just so unbelievably old down there, and vast and dark.
And the pressure, being underwater and everything. I mean, my God, that submarine incident from a couple months ago was, and again, that's a real world thing, but no, absolutely. I can, again, you'll forgive me, but I'm from that generation where the Jacques Cousteau specials were coming out, and it was hand in hand of him exploring the oceans as we were exploring space. So it was equally fascinating learning about the ocean just as it was outer space and stuff.
Yeah.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And then Snake's like, hey, I can see you on Aquaman. He needs the love.
Yeah. Sure. No, I love world building too. It'll be really fun to do some Atlantis stuff. Ouroboros Snake asks, did our conversations here bring Bloodwind into Action Comics? The answer is yes, in part.
There you go. Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Oh, that's fantastic. And yes, Ken dug a lot of horrors in the deep, but yeah, I meant to post Snake's thing. That's great. Oh, that means a lot, folks. That's excellent, man. Very cool. Of course. Hilarious. Oh, and Chem Dog says he loves the movie Deep Rising. Sure. Absolutely. Hilarious. You're killing me. All right. Do we have time for a little Bond? Or do you want
Real
to wrap?
quick,
We can wrap.
I've actually got hours of work to do tonight. I should probably
Oh,
go see.
Philip. Absolutely. My
I'm
God.
sorry,
Of
John.
course. No, no, no. I will just say I'm enjoying the story. I love that Bond's interpersonal relationships are being explored in For King and Country. I thank you for helping me catch up on it and stuff.
Yeah,
So
of
it's great
course.
to
No,
see.
it's a pleasure to work on it. The artist, man, Giorgio is doing amazing work, and
It's a little action shot of James Paris.
yeah,
So
yeah,
very
right.
cool. No, and I
Yeah,
love Gwen. I think Gwen's a really cool character.
thank you.
And,
Yeah, I love that
and
character a lot.
well, and again, it expands on James's origins and everything. So
yeah, it's been really fun. I mean, one of the novels that I enjoyed the most was a more recent one, post Fleming, that talked about his like how he got his 00 status in the first place. There was this really great opening chapter where it talks about the death of 007, and then they bring in the new guy to kind of investigate, and then they give the guy's name, and it's James Bond. It's the new guy. It talks about like that chapter in his life, which was really fun, because you occasionally hear little stories in the old novels. You hear about the two killings he had to do to get his 00 status and everything.
yes,
And that novel talked about it, and it's just cool to see like an actual chapter from his origin explored. I remember a time. I mean, now it's kind of been explored more, but in Batman lore, by far the most interesting part of his history that I ever think about is his walkabout when he's a kid,
yep.
and then a young man, kind of learning everything that he needed to know to do what he did.
From all the international experts that he,
yeah, exactly. I just thinking about all the people he must have spoken to and worked with and all that, and some of the diversity, and then some of that has been explored since then. But even when I was a kid, during the Nightfall era, I think Nightfall or Night's End, around that time,
yeah,
the book was kind of, a series was going from issue to issue. It's kind of like doing the Triangle era thing where it would go from book to book. Except I think Shadow of the Bat might have still been a kind of a standalone thing. Maybe there was a great Shadow of the Bat issue that talked about that when it got into his walkabout, talked about him applying to be in the FBI and how he worked with them a little bit and decided there was no way to fight crime and walks away. Which is not, that's, anyone listening, that's bullshit. I believe in the FBI.
Yeah, but it's comics, man. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. It said that he scored perfect on every test except for marksmanship.
Hilarious. That's awesome.
And
I also remember that animated series episode where his martial artist guru comes back.
Right. Yeah, it talks about, yeah, exactly. Like the where he goes up against the ninja.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a Scott Snyder story. I think it was Scott that showed him. Might have been like a backup in one of the New 52 issues or something, where he was. I want to say he was in Brazil, maybe, studying, like learning how to basically do getaway driving.
Oh, wow.
With this criminal, and in the end, he ends up getting the guy caught, like on purpose. And of course, now there's the stuff that James did with Ghostmaker and everything else. So it's been cool to see some of that explored. And I don't ever want it all to be fleshed out, because I want there's got to be some mystery left.
Sure.
But anyway, sorry, I got way off topic there.
No. I want to give you the wrap up, buddy, because
it's been fun to flesh out some of Bond's origins and show his characters that are part of his actual canon, and not just a disposable story with a disposable girl and villain.
Yeah, so agree. Absolutely, man. Dynamite's 007 King and Country. If you're not reading it, you're missing a hell of a story. Absolutely.
Oh,
and
thanks.
another great conversation, man. Always, it. Always a pleasure. It gives us more to talk about in the coming months and everything. And I'm thank you for making time to talk tonight.
Of course, John. It's always a pleasure to see you. And terrific. Hopefully I'll see you before then, but Terrificon 24, man. Can't
wait to hang, buddy. Know it. And if your Army work brings you to Chicago, I expect a breakfast or a lunch with you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually closing in on the end of my Army time too. I'll probably only be in another year and a half or so.
Wow. All right. Well, congratulations on finishing the hitch, but
yeah, thanks.
It served you well, and truly Wade and I describe you as a Renaissance man, and we both honestly mean it. All your amazing talents.
Well, thanks, John. It's kind of you to say. Mark Wade is crushing it in at DC right now. I always love seeing his work. Actually, I need to write him an email tonight. There's something about that corner of DC that I want to talk to him about. I can't wait to see what he's doing next. I know something about what he's doing next that I'm really excited about, and there's a little information from one of my stories that I think he might want. But it's just to get to play in the same sandbox as him is a huge honor.
I hear you, man. Well, thanks as always, everybody. Great questions.
Yeah, thanks everybody for chiming in. It's great. Always good to see some people in the chat. So thanks again for all the questions and hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.